Do you feel like you're getting better or worse at spotting AI out in the wild? Do you think you could tell if it was fraud? Let's dive into this next episode with Hapo's fraud analyst, Jen. The last time you were on, we were talking about AI and how that is coming in and making major changes to what fraudsters are capable of doing. And we had another episode where we had a conversation with some real life victims of fraud who came on, gave us their story, and how we're pretty sure that AI was involved in that one as well. What are we seeing now that AI is evolving as quickly as it is?
I think that as fast as AI is evolving and as fast as the great things are coming out of it, we're equally seeing the scary and ugly of fraud. They're able to send out text messages faster. They're able to gather information faster because of AI. Stand up websites that look legitimate, even though they're not, where it used to take, a couple of people a couple of days. Now they can stand up 20 websites in 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I think just everything is moving faster and quicker and looks more legitimate from that piece of it.
With AI being so good at writing code, like you mentioned, building those websites, they barely have to do anything other than ask for it to duplicate something that's already out there or provided a few ideas of what to get, and it'll generate an entire website for you very functionally that you can then copy and paste over.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks legitimate. It looks like it's real from, your everyday user. You could go there and be like, oh yeah, that's a site I thought I was going to. So, and text messages too, where it used to be you would have to craft it, make it look legitimate, and even just assume your audience to a degree. So probably the text messages are going to be more generic. Maybe they'll use big, well-known names because obviously if you target a wide array of people, okay, we're going to use the biggest, most well-known names. Well, now they can get really granular and target it more, so they can come to our members and say, hey, I'm Hapo. And they're probably going to be right that some of those people are going to be like, oh yeah, I bank there. That looks legitimate. Yeah,
and we've never sent out anything scary or dangerous or fraud-like before intentionally. Right. And so we come across as a trustworthy source when something comes through, making it that much easier to ignore.
Yes, yeah. And you think about even what's been in the news lately with a lot of like the toll scams where, a lot of people were getting scams. Hey, you went over a toll and now you owe money. Well, especially here in Tri-Cities, we don't typically have those. But if you've traveled recently and you're like, oh, maybe I did. And so you don't know what to expect. It looks very legitimate.
And of course, in those ones, I know the ones that I was always getting were like from New Jersey, and I've never actually traveled to New Jersey, weirdly enough. But I would get those, and they would almost always seem to come from like an international phone number, which to me is pretty big red flags. I've never been to New Jersey, so either A, somebody's stolen my identity and managed to associate it to a car in New Jersey, and they're running toll booths, which seems like a very low-earning type of a scam to be pulling. And two, why am I getting a text message from a different country about New Jersey tolls?
Yes.
So a couple of pretty big red flags on some of those. With AI coming in and helping to create some of these things, are we seeing some of the other red flags disappear? I know early on with a lot of fraudulent text messages or emails, there'd be littered with typos. Are we getting more where now that they can do a copy and paste from an AI where some of those red flags are starting to disappear or be a little bit harder to spot?
I think yes and no. Yes, sometimes I do think that they are kind of copy pasting verbiage, wording, messaging, and AI can adjust it better than just a normal translate tool used to be able to. But also to a degree, fraudsters sometimes will leave in those things because they know if you're willing to overlook a few spelling mistakes, a few grammatical errors, and still move forward, that you're going to be more likely to fall for their scam, whatever it is. And so sometimes they're left there on purpose because then they know the type of person they've kind of caught the attention of.
So they're using the errors in those as a screening mechanism. You
Yeah.
obviously didn't catch these, so you should be an easier sell, meaning that their time dealing with somebody can actually be more efficient.
Yes, exactly. Which is kind of crazy that they think all the way through that. But you know, a lot of times these scammers aren't dumb. You know, they know what works and they know what they're doing. But I do think a lot of, especially the text messages you get impersonating a financial institution or a government agency, those definitely have gotten better to where they look cleaner. There are not those telltale signs of, oh, this is completely misspelled or doesn't even make sense. And even the phone numbers they're coming from. You know, to your point, yeah, they used to have to use kind of crazy random phone numbers, you know, where it looked like, okay, it was an international number, or, you know, who's calling me from Florida? You know, I don't know anybody in Florida. Where now they can make it look like it's coming from a trusted phone number. So it looks like it's coming from HAPO, or it looks like it's coming from
At least an area code nearby.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And so I think those things definitely have gone away, where you can't necessarily trust the phone number you're seeing or the message itself.
And I know recently I got a fraud text message on one of my cards. And it was a message, and it looked legitimate. And I took a look at the number, and I didn't recognize it. So I called that financial institution. Turns out it was fair. It was legit. And they were more than happy to confirm for me, yes, that is the right number. Go ahead, feel free to call it back and go through the confirmation process. Because I had bought something online, and every now and again, websites tend to trigger those type of checks, which honestly, I appreciate. That's fantastic. But being able to just call in and confirm, yes, that is a number that you should expect something from, and have the contact center employee turn around and just immediately confirm it, not one of those, oh God, another person calling asking about this. Yes. No, they're 100%, nope, that is a legitimate phone number. Here are some other things that you should look for. Just that extra, and I think that took me maybe a total of 5 minutes to make a quick phone call to verify that, yeah, this phone number looked correct, and it was. Okay, cool. Now I didn't click on something to go or call somebody back at a line that I'm now initiating a phone call and dropping into maybe a fraudster's lap on accident.
Yeah, no, and I think that you're spot on. If you're not sure if it's, you know, you don't get those text messages very often or fraud alerts very often. Find a phone number you know and trust, you know, whether it's, you know, online or it's already in your contacts, or go into that place and just, hey, is this you guys? And it should be a pretty quick yes or no.
Yeah.
So makes it super easy to help verify some of those.
So with text messages we've talked about, I know we mentioned voice as a burgeoning horizon of AI fraud. Are we seeing more with that?
Yeah, we are starting to see that happen more often. Definitely when you're talking about scams where they're impersonating family, you know, somebody's in trouble. Absolutely, we're starting to see more AI-generated voices where it sounds very similar, or even it is that voice where you're like, no, that was definitely, you know, my son or my cousin or my mom or whoever it was. So we are absolutely seeing more of that, and I think AI is making it easier. Where it used to be kind of a very long process of trying to get enough samples to generate that voice, where it's just getting easier and easier and easier. So you need less amount of samples and less time, you know, and you can just throw it into AI and say, hey, make this voice say whatever you want it to.
Yeah. And honestly, like AI voice generation is again, one of those useful tools to be able to create, say, an automated hold message. So you don't have to have somebody come in, grab a microphone, record through everything, just feed it the script. You get a nice, well-spoken voicemail message that you can put out there for a large business or anything. But then again, as the technology advances and becomes more useful in the ways that we want it to, it becomes more useful in the ways that we don't want it to.
Yes. Yeah. I would say even video too, if you think about it, like that's starting to happen as well. So maybe you FaceTime somebody, you know, how do you know that that person is really that person that you're talking to. So, I mean, that's even another step further than just a voice. Now you're looking at somebody.
Well, and it's not like you need a major account or anything to get access to these tools. Items like ChatGPT, Grok, they're all over the place. They're accessible and they're being integrated into pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So is that increasing the number of people that are attempting to run these scams?
I think absolutely, because again, it used to have a little sophistication behind it. You needed some knowledge. And so you would only see that done by bigger rings of people, crime rings that had some sophistication behind them. Where now, your everyday person can just go in and, like you said, take one of your AI tools and put in there what you want, and it will give you everything you need.
Yeah, and we see people posting AI-generated photos all over social media, adding different things so you don't have to get a graphic designer to create your concert poster to just throw stuff out there to the world to see. Everybody having access to this means that people are seeing it a lot more and more. But is that making it easier or harder to identify what is a scam?
I think it's honestly making it harder because people are getting used to it. When AI first came out and it was like, oh, well, everybody has, 12 fingers or, it looked a little weird. Oh, you have 3 noses. Like, it's not quite right. Where now it does look more legitimate, and it makes it harder to determine, is it real or is it AI generated? Yeah,
you can probably still find some artifacts in particular images that you can tell, be like, oh, well, that person didn't exactly move the way a normal person would move. That hand went right through that microphone.
Yes.
Something along those lines. You'll still see some of those things, but at the same time, if I'm building something and I want to trick somebody, I'm also going to be looking at that and have it regenerate until I'm not seeing those things, unless I'm filtering for people who are just going to look over the top of that.
Right. Yeah. So there might be still a little bit of the oddities there, but only if you're really looking carefully.
So we've talked about a bunch of the ways that this is evolving. What are we now seeing these used as for scams out there? Because if it's getting harder to identify, at least letting the people know what is coming their way as scams will help them know where to focus a little bit more to try and second guess some of these things. So what scams are you seeing more of today?
Obviously phishing, which we've kind of talked about a lot, but really kind of the one that we're seeing more where AI is being used is, we're talking romance scams, and we're talking extortion scams, where they're starting to use them to really build, that relationship with somebody, because it's easier for AI to calculate all the data, start those conversations. AI can go scrape your entire social media page and then come back to me and be like, oh, this is what Scott likes, so now I know what I want to talk about.
Okay.
So it makes romance scams so much easier. Plus, I can generate a picture of somebody that, oh, okay, this is generally an image of somebody that, everybody might want to swipe right on at a dating app, right?
Exactly.
So it's making those easier to generate, easier to create that persona and that profile, and then start those conversations. I mean, even some of those conversations, you can say, hey, AI, have a conversation with this person.
At which point now, like, as a scammer, I don't even have to do the legwork of pretending to like somebody.
Right? You
just, like, AI,
set it up.
Do this thing. Become the perfect catfish for me.
Yes, exactly. And so it knows, and so it adapts, and it tells this person everything they want to hear. It's company, so then it makes it really easy to fall for that. And then you think about, when you find out maybe you have been scammed, I think that a lot of times we don't talk about romance scams because it's kind of embarrassing.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh my gosh, I fell in love with somebody that doesn't exist. Like, that nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, and honestly speaking, there have been some pretty high-profile individuals out there in the world that have had these happen to them. One that immediately comes to mind, the professional football player Manti Te'o, was catfished into a romance situation, and everybody kind of saw how he was treated, and it doesn't exactly bode well for somebody wanting to come out and open up about that. But if you don't, more people are going to fall for those things.
Absolutely.
And there's no way that you can recover in any way, shape, or form outside of just shelling up and being like, nope, I just have to ignore that this ever happened and move on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that until we kind of remove that stigma and really talk about it and allow space for people to talk about that, it's just going to continue to happen. And I think that kind of falls in line with extortion scams. It's the same type of thing. So you kind of see those two ways. One, you get a phone call and somebody tells you that there's inappropriate material on your computer, and they know it's there and they're going to turn you into the police department unless you pay them. And that's a very scary thought if you think about it, right? Even if you're like, if you were to step back and take a breath and be like, okay, wait. No, I know I'm good.
Yeah.
But in that moment, they
You're like,
prey
wait a
on
minute,
that
what do I have on my
fight or
computer?
flight, right? And you are like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing or mortifying would that be to have that come out and to have, somebody find something on my computer and again, it's that embarrassment factor. The other way they take that is that you can kind of start that romantic relationship and then you can convince people to send you pictures that are compromising. And then from there, once you have those pictures, the fraudster says, well, now I'm going to send those to everybody unless you send me money. I have your social media, I know where you work, or I know where you go to school.
Yeah, your social credit is going to be ruined by this thing that you sent that you assumed was going to be in confidence.
Yeah.
And of course, anything between two consenting adults is between two consenting adults. But if one of them is a scammer, then all of a sudden this can become a much bigger issue.
Yes.
And I think that like the adults part of that matters quite a bit. But we're seeing a lot of underage individuals with access to internet, phones, different social media sites. And we know that that's, nothing that we want to go too deep into, but a point where you're talking about people that are pretty emotionally vulnerable to that type of social pressure.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. And we are seeing that, which is really scary because I think too, when you are younger, you're not an adult, you don't necessarily have all of the tools you need to handle situations like that. Like, let's be honest, adults don't always, right? So to be a kid and have that happen and realize, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Like, that's a very scary situation, and you have to tell your parents or whoever that may be. Like that's really serious, and we are starting to see that, and again, it's not something we talk about. And I think because not only are there underage people involved, which probably we don't want to blast that to the world, right? But even as a parent, like I know as a parent, I wouldn't want to have to admit to anybody that happened to my kid, right? Like that's terrible. And not even one, yes, it's embarrassing. Like, oh my gosh, I failed my kid. But two, for them, wanting to protect them, wanting to make sure that, you're helping them. And so again, it's not something people talk about.
Yeah, it becomes like the entire idea of it is a taboo topic. Like it shouldn't be anything that anybody's going out there to attempt to accomplish. And it is difficult to talk about because it is an embarrassment factor. And like you said, that protection, like, what could I have done to prevent this from happening? Should I have locked down their device? Should I have only given them 5 minutes of screen time or whatever it is?
Been more aware of who they're talking to. Yeah, like asking more of those questions. And I mean, for anybody who's ever had a teenager, you can do all of that sometimes. And it still might happen, I mean, that is just part of life.
Well, and that rebellious nature that you can get as a kid, if somebody's telling you not to do something, that might be the immediate time that you're going to the exact impetus you need to go do the thing.
Yes, exactly. But I think, talking about it in the context of scams and fraud and being mindful of your online presence, being mindful of who you're talking to, and that goes for kids and adults, really. But really seeing these scammers starting to go from just adults to now also talking to kids and taking advantage of kids. Like we really are starting to see that. And it's like, that's not something that people are talking about. And it's not something that has really caught the public's attention yet. You know, a lot of other scams and things we're starting to see a little more mainstream where people are talking about them. Like most people, if you said, oh, this is phishing, they'd be like, okay, I know I've heard that phrase before. Maybe they can't define it or really quite understand it, but they've heard it. Where like extortion scams, romance scams, people aren't really talking about them.
I also feel like just the title of extortion makes me feel like it is a much bigger deal. Like we're talking mobsters and such when we start talking about extorting somebody. And it doesn't feel like the type of thing that would be happening at a smaller scale for like, hey, I know you have this thing, so you need to pay me money. I think that like, while that is definitely extortion, it almost feels more like, I don't know, blackmail would be like a lesser title for it that would make more sense, but it is still 100% extortion.
Yeah.
And it can happen at any level to any type of person.
Yep.
And the romance scams, I think everybody knows that they're out there, but it is one of those things that is, it's that more emotional type of a connection that makes it harder to get somebody to track down. Where it's not, oh, I'm a dum-dum, I clicked on a link that I shouldn't have, and now like my computer got locked down by a virus and somebody overseas is telling me I need to send them X amount of dollars and they'll send me the key to unlock it. Like, okay, cool. I can admit that I was a dum-dum and clicked on a link that I shouldn't have and did something silly, but going out and like bearing yourself out emotionally about like, I thought this was a real relationship, that feels crueler.
It does. And like you said, people don't generally treat it very well because I think, especially with romance scams, people are, oh, that would never happen to me. Like, I would know. Like, we kind of have that mentality. And so when somebody tells us that happens, it's like, oh, and you want to look down on them when the reality is it can happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm. And like, from the outside looking in, it's a lot easier to, especially in hindsight, see the red flags that were there. Because by the time you're having the conversation with somebody, those have probably already flown for a while.
Yes.
And they may have missed them in the immediacy of it. And that's also like the point behind the red flags and the urgency of, say, your standard texting or phishing schemes. Where they want you to be, off your guard and dealing with the urgency so that you're ignoring the red flags and moving with reckless abandon, which I don't know how many people move with reckless abandon into relationships, but I can think of one or two that I've met that probably could have pumped the brakes a little bit.
Sometimes you do. But even with that, I think that when we talk to people who have been the victim of a romance scam, they saw the red flags initially, and they'll even tell us that, well, I was concerned about this, or I was concerned about that. But when they ask that person, there's always an answer for it.
Of course.
And so then it's like, oh, okay, I'm just being silly.
Yep.
Like I'm overthinking it. Like it's fine. And so they kind of talk themselves out of it almost.
Yeah, well, because if you assume that it's another person, not every person is perfect by any means. And so they can have a flaw here or there. And if they justify it, own up to it, or have an excuse for it, it does make it pretty easy to kind of look past that.
Yeah, I think especially, when you think about like early relationships where you're still kind of in that like, oh, I'm in awe phase, and you look, even in normal, healthy relationships in that beginning phase, you do look over some of those things. You have those rose-colored glasses, and so it's easy. And so I think that scammers take advantage of that.
So where are scams evolving fastest at the moment? How are things shifting? Which type of scams out there are moving quicker?
Definitely your phishing scams. Definitely your kind of family scams where, you're getting those voice calls. But really, I think everything is evolving faster. We're even seeing old scams kind of coming back with a new twist, like check fraud. Okay. Nobody writes checks anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like, who does that?
I had to write one recently, and I had to go through boxes to find my checkbook.
Right?
It's just not out regularly.
Yeah, but we're starting to see that again, where Well, with AI, it's easy to recreate a check that actually looks legitimate, as opposed to before, where you had to really make it yourself and kind of play with images, and you could tell a little bit. There were definitely discrepancies. Where now AI, it's like, hey, take this and make it look like a real check, and it does. And so then they're using checks again because it's an easy medium to play with. And you think of, well, now we have remote deposit capture. You can just take a picture of it and deposit it, so you don't even need that real paper check. And so things like that, even where they're finding new ways to use AI that are kind of up and coming.
I was going to say, and would the decline of people actually using paper checks kind of open up this isn't the type of thing that people see regularly, so you wouldn't really notice a legitimate versus a flawed or a fake check because you just never see them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you think back, well, a money order or a cashier's check, people used to see them all the time, and that was good. They were guaranteed, those were very special. Well, now people don't use them that often anymore. And so you give that to somebody and they can't necessarily tell a difference because maybe they've only seen one or two, or, they've never really used them. So, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, they're absolutely taking advantage of that.
I was going to say, when I grew up, I was writing checks for lunch at high school. And we did test it out once. I let one of my friends write a check for me. He signed his own name on it and everything. And it actually went all the way through with no issues. Which, that was fun. I was there when he did it, so it wasn't exactly fraud.
Right. Just testing the waters.
See how much my signature can change and see if it triggers anything. So what do you expect to see coming down the line more of if people are trying to keep a weather eye on the horizon for new scams or evolutions of things to come next?
I think really watching the AI space and really watching kind of what's emerging, what's evolving from there. Because as we see technology grow and watching kind of the new and cool things, you're going to also then see that on the fraud side. So really keeping an eye on that. Like, where's AI going? What's new? What's getting better? What's getting easier? Kind of like people in AI are getting better. It's harder to tell now.
Everybody's got the appropriate number of fingers. Yes. Nobody has feet for hands in pictures.
Exactly. Yeah. You actually can see somebody shake a hand instead of, now they have their hand over there.
Yeah. Go to shake a hand, it's a third arm that comes out.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, as those start to expand, you can expect then maybe that grandparent AI voice scheme becomes a FaceTime call.
Yeah, exactly. You start to see social media posts that, you may not be able to tell the difference between. And so maybe it's a friend reaching out on social media, hey, I had an accident, I need some money. And you look at their social media feed and it looks legitimate, but really it's been compromised. And, now the fraudster's reaching out to all of their contacts. And I think things like that are going to get a lot harder to spot.
I was going to say, I know that a lot of times with people that are requesting money or something to help out, we'll use like a electronic payment system like a Venmo, and oftentimes those can come with either a user handle or B, a QR code that you can scan. Yep. And I don't know how good your memory is for images, but I know that I guarantee I cannot tell if that is your QR code or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that things like that would be easy to recreate, easy to make look legitimate. And, unfortunately, when you send money those ways, like once it's gone, it's gone. And you can't get it back. And so just really being mindful of that.
Yeah, double check the source.
Yes.
Double check that handle, that image. Yes, I know those two dogs. That is definitely my friend.
Yes. If you are unsure, call them, text them, don't reach out to them on whatever platform you're getting that request from.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like messaging back the fraudster on their own platform and letting them confirm that, no, this is actually me. It's safe. You should definitely click that link.
Right? You should definitely send me $500 and do it right now.
Don't hesitate. I need it immediately.
Yes.
Are we seeing new ways to protect yourself, or does this really boil down to all of the standard protections against scams for people out there?
I think for the most part, it really is just those standard protections. Like, you're always going to be your best defense against fraud. You know your spending habits, you know where your credit should be, you have the ability to do kind of all of those things, freeze your credit, watch your accounts. But I think where AI maybe comes in handy is that not only is it empowering companies to have better controls, because again, AI does some pretty amazing things. Whether it's watching behavior analytics, or whether it's calculating data faster, or, getting alerts and things out faster to you. So from that perspective, AI really is helping. But I think too, AI, if as people continue to use it, will continue to evolve better ways for it to help as well.
Okay. So the standard protections for people out there still apply. Slow down.
Yes. Take a breath.
Confirm the source if you have any concept that it might not be the right one. Like I did in my earlier story, make a quick Google search or jump onto the website for a company, check the phone number, give them a call and confirm it.
Yep.
They're not going to be mad about it.
Absolutely. Yes. Nobody will ever be mad for you asking.
Yeah. If it's a social media post, you think it's a friend, reach out to that friend on a different platform. Yes. Use a text message to a known phone number. They're in your address book, probably.
Right. If you're going to send them money,
memorized a phone number.
Hope so.
I haven't memorized a phone number in decades at this point. Whoa, that's a lot. But message people, find out, verify. And honestly, I've never had a friend be like, why are you asking me? Right. Obviously that's me.
Yeah.
And if they go that route, even then I might be like, all right, fine. That's just who they are.
And I think another big one, especially with, not being able to necessarily trust a voice or a phone number, is with your family, create a code word or a code phrase.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. And it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It could be a word. So if you do get a call at 2 a.m. and, hey, Jimmy, this is Jimmy, I'm in jail, I got in an accident, I need you to bail me out, you need to send $500 right now, you could be like, Jimmy, what's your favorite color? And he could be like, plaid,
pumpernickel.
Right? Or it can be, a code phrase like, hey, do we have a cabin in Nevada?
Yeah, right on the ocean front.
Right? Exactly. So whatever makes sense to your family, and then give it to grandparents, give it to parents, give it to the kids. So then that if something does happen where you do become a victim of one of these scams, you right away would be like, oh, no, I know that's not you. And you hang up the phone.
Yeah. And families out there with young kids, you could do this with, say, the school pickup line as well.
Yes.
If you have to send somebody to pick up your child for you because you had a flat tire, got in a car accident, got held up late at work or something like that, have it with somebody who has, and tell them this is the family's passphrase.
Yeah.
And ask the kid for the passphrase, or the opposite. If your kid's getting picked up by somebody who isn't you, have them ask for the passphrase.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's a simple, easy tool, and it really combats a lot of these scams where maybe you don't know.
Yeah, and we use it for almost every software system that we log into. Your phone has a passphrase,
right,
or a PIN number that you're entering, or your face. Every software tool that we work with these days. So we're used to passwords. Everybody should be okay with that one.
Yeah, just make it something hard to guess, and don't reuse it.
Yeah, especially if you're handing it out to other friends who are going to go pick them up. If that's the case, probably a good idea to cycle that passphrase at that point in time. Any last thoughts for our listeners today?
I mean, I think it's just last thought is as scary as we make AI sound, and as much as fraudsters use it, it really is a good tool as well. Mm-hmm. And I really do think it is helping us as much as, the bad guys are using it to try to circumvent that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like any tool. It can be used for exactly what it's intended for or something nefarious.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've seen more than enough sci-fi movies that evolve around that topic in and of itself.
Yes, and I think as long as you're aware and you take the precautions, then you're good to go.
So we're going to do a quick fraud hot take session.
Oh, okay.
Very quick answers here.
Okay.
I have not read these. Jeff just handed me this list of questions. So we're going to go very quick through here.
Okay.
What's the most common scam people are falling for right now?
Phishing scams where they're giving out their card information.
Okay. What's one thing people trust that they probably shouldn't?
The phone number on their phone.
What's a red flag people think they understand but actually don't?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh. That's a hard one. A red flag people think they know.
That is a tough one.
We'll come back to that one.
Yep. What's the biggest mistake people make when they get a suspicious message?
They forward it to somebody or click on it just to see what it might do.
What's one habit that would prevent the majority of scams?
Changing your password and having good password hygiene.
What's something people do that makes them an easy target?
Rushing through things and not paying attention.
Are scams getting more advanced or just more believable?
Both.
What's something you see coming that people aren't ready for yet?
I think the use of AI and cryptocurrency, because a lot of people don't understand cryptocurrency and don't think they need to.
Okay. What's the fastest way people get themselves into trouble?
Trusting too easily.
What's one rule everyone should follow to avoid getting scammed?
Always check your credit and put a fraud alert on it.
All right. Let's go back to that last one that was difficult. And I may reword this, but we'll try it the way it is again.
Okay.
What's a red flag people think they understand but actually don't?
I think trusting the source something came from without verifying it.
Okay. I was going to say, I feel like the only other way that I would go on the red flag that people don't understand would be the romance schemes.
Yeah.
Because they see the red flag, but they think they understand that it's okay.
But it's okay.
That would be the only way that I would have gone with that answer.
No, I mean that would have worked.
All right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about the advancements of AI in both the good and the bad, and bringing people up to speed on what the current fraud trends are out in the world today. And with that, this has been Dollars and Cents, Hapa Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Until next time.